Okay, guys, how you doing? So this video here is really more of a setup, styling, and a walk through the parameters here. While there's a series of training videos that follow this that I've done specifically for all the new traders that have invested in our indicator suite from the Ninja webinar here, I wanted to just, since we don't actually have a manual, I figured I would give you a video manual. So for those of you that are very experienced with Ninja indicators and you know how to customize them and style them the way that you'd like, or perhaps this is you won't need to watch this. But for those of you who are still in that learning curve or maybe haven't mastered how to work with indicators within Ninja, this is for your benefit here, and I think will reduce the number of questions we're getting. And so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, but I know in the other videos that I've already recorded, I went too quickly, and I just want to get some clarification here so you aren't wondering, how did he do that, and cut down on the number of email exchanges we have. Not that I'm not happy to hear from you, but I think this will save you some time as well. So so I have a 1500 tick chart of the ES here. I have on it now, I have Auto-Fibs and I have the measured move indicator. They're in the background here, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I have our toolbar up here just for easy access. Now let's start with the measured move indicator. So I'm going to go there first. All right, in terms of the parameters here that are available to you. And again, if you've got it set up, you like it just the way it is, then you don't need to watch this, right? But for those of you that are still kind of trying to figure it out, so a lot of questions we're getting about this section right here. So this is how I set it. Right? This is how I like it. Now on my chart, I have a lot of things, so I don't want to see the lines on mouse hover because I know I don't need to see where it's from. I can usually just eyeball it here, and I don't want to see failed measured moves. I don't want to see failed measured move lines. I only want to see the measured moves that have completed here, and I don't necessarily, again, if you want to show the lines, you can. I don't do it. And there can be times where clicking this on can be helpful if you're as you're still getting used to how the indicator works. That can be useful. So that's just personal preference. I find once you get used to it that I don't need that on. It's just adding more. Oh, let me show you here. So if I do that, so I can see this, but I'm moving my mouse over the screen all the time, right? So that's fine to see those, but I don't personally. Now, once you used it for a while, you might come to the same conclusion. I don't need that line here to tell me to see that, right? But sometimes when you're like, which one is that pulling from, that can be useful. So I don't want to discourage you from this, but as you're in the course of the day trading through the day, you might find that annoying. But it's very good when you're still learning. So that's just another choice for you here. Now let's go over here because I've got Auto-Fibs on. So you can see what I've got on here. I've got Auto-Fibs and TD measured move on. Now this is, as I was showing in the other videos here, where I just pull them on and off. And so you want to click this on. So you want to leave this checked. I'm going to uncheck this now since we can understand what that's doing. So by clicking that as Alt-M, so I'm telling it to use the hotkey shortcut. So if I click OK there, so meaning that now as I have it set to show me only completed measured moves, so if I want to just take them off the screen, I just hit Alt-M. Well, let me get the Auto-Fibs off as well. So here, just measured move. Alt-M turns them on. Alt-M turns them off. Right, but the default, when you first load a chart, if that's checked, it'll come up loaded. Right, just so you know. Right, so here's this is Friday. You can see in the ramp here. We won't go into the details there, but just Alt-M takes them on or off. Now, with regards to additional parameters, let's go back to some of this again. If you forgive me if this is all rudimentary to you. Now, for me, because I don't want to see any of those lines, I don't really care about any of this. But what I do care about is my color coding here, and this is just from habit. So I like my 50s to be red. I like my golden zone. I use gold and yellow for those two. So and then for targets, you see down here, now we've added additional targets. I like that first target in bright green. I don't want to miss it. And then I put my second target in blue in a dotted format here. So if I put them back on. So here I like that 50 to be bright and bold. I like that 618 to be bold and gold, and then I put the dots in yellow as the 65, because if it gets through one of these and it's just the dotted line left, I want to know that I don't want to be unsure. Is that the 618 or is that the 65? All right, so that's just, again, it's just my habit, my personal preference here. Jeez, you can see how many, right? It's unbelievable. So all of those, and I don't need to see the lines. I'm not interested in any of that. So I'm just looking for where they are, and I can usually just eyeball. Again, I've been doing this a long time, so I can kind of eyeball what they're related to. But every now and then it can be useful. So you can just click that and put it back on if you wanted it. So that's how I like it with that color coding. Right? It's entirely up to the user as to what you like there. You don't have to go with what I'm doing. It's just my habits, what I'm used to. So I think that covers us on parameters here. Let's see if there's anything else that I need to cover here. I would just leave these here. I mean, you can experiment with these, but I think 3% is enough of a break. You can go to 0, so it's not going to show you anything where it goes one tick beyond the 65. But again, as I mentioned in some of the other videos, we are starting to see 1 or 2 ticks past the 65. Potentially some of the algos have recalibrated, so they're giving it a little more room on the other side of it, because this is now, we've been teaching this now for 2.5 years, and it's possible. I don't want to overstate our influence, but it's because I'm starting to see that. I didn't see that 2 years ago. Now I'm starting to see 1 or 2 tick breaks, and then still going to target to the tick. So there's been some adjustment by some of the algorithms. Again, we don't know how many people are using it, who's behind them. We're never going to know that. So all we can do is just notice, right, if we see any changes. But here I'm allowing for a 3% break, and you can see there's very few here that actually broke. See if I can find one that broke. Looks like that may have. No. Oh, yeah, it did. So there's one where you can see there's a 1 tick break here of that 65. Right, it still gets its target. So that's why I keep that 3% there, just because I see that now more than I used to. Now, most of the time you won't see it, but there, just to give it a little extra cushion, you wouldn't want to put your stop 1 tick under that 65, get wicked out, and then off it goes. Right? So just a suggestion, right? You play with it, put it, adjust them to whatever you're liking. I think that covers everything there. Trend strength, I think you're good with 5 there. But experiment with it if you like it bigger, smaller. I think that's a good place to start. This is maximum measured move in ticks. All right, so that you're not getting giant ones that would be off of maybe a daily. It's 50, the 618, and the 65. You might, if you wanted to play around with it a little bit, you could go to the 66, right? If you're seeing more and more tick breaks, right? So you can play with those if you want to give it a little more buffer. I'd keep these just as they are. Again, I think there's a typo. When you first install it, I think my programmer has that as minus 65.8. You want to change that to 618, and we update these regularly, so that would likely just a little brain fart where he was putting that in there, and so I think they have all now been sent out with 65 there. But it's easy, right? It's easy change. Again, color coding based on your preferences. And I think that was the main thing here. I was getting some people saying, how do I make them come on and off? So Alt-M puts them back on. So often, right, if I see what's going on here, and I see what they've used, and I'm thinking about the next trade, I'll take them off, because now I'm looking at the Auto-Fibs. But that should cover the measured move. Okay, so let's go to the Auto-Fibs. And it's similar, right? Similar conceptually in terms of how we have it coded and written. All right, so Auto-Fibs here. Similar in that you have the choices here in parameters whether or not you want to use the hotkeys. So I leave the Alt-G checked. Cluster width, that's in terms of the distance here. I leave that at 100. Maximum fib retracement's 15 on the screen. I don't necessarily want to see more than that. In fact, sometimes 15 can be too many. I would encourage you to keep this checked, only fibs around current price. Maximum number of relevant fibs to draw, 5 is a good starting place. Trend strength at 10 is a good starting place. Minimum swing in points. Otherwise, if you make them too big, too small, you're going to see too many of them. So that's a good starting point. Minimum break-in ticks. Again, up to the user. I keep it at 2. Here you have the choice. So if you wanted to show price in addition to percentage, let me just apply that. All right, so first, I'm going to take Alt M, get the measured moves off. So now, by default, because I have that Alt G checked, by default, they're going to come up on the right-hand side. Now, you'll note here, let's get clear here. So in mine, on my AutoFibs at the moment here, I have it showing only the 50, the 618, and the 65. Now you could add the 38, you could add the 786, 760, whatever you'd like that you want it to show over on the right-hand side or on the chart. I'll show you that distinction. And then I'm making everything else either transparent or I don't want to see it. And then yet again, 50, same color code here. Exactly the same, first target, second target. Although I changed these just a little bit so I don't confuse what's what. So I make this a lighter green and a lighter blue here for those. Again, this is entirely just user dependent, whatever you like, however thick you'd like them. So same idea here. So by default, they're going to be grouped on the right as the Alt G is checked. So further hotkeys. Let's go back in here. So if I go to AutoFibs here and I go to my other hotkey is Alt F. Now I want that off because I don't want it every time I bring up a chart to have all the fibs on the chart. So let me show you that, right? So make that distinction. Alt G checked so I don't miss anything. It's always there. And Alt F unchecked. Let me show you what that means. So if I go Alt F now, right, it brings up all the swings from all the relevant pivots. Right, but this can be a little much, right? And you can see they're all matched over here on the right. Now, additionally, if you'll note here, you'll see that I have both percentage as well as price. So if you were trying to, get down right to the nitty gritty as to, well, okay, I want to front run that by a tick, and it's at 33.85, so I'm going to put it at, 84 3/4. That's how you might use that. If I can change that if that's too much on the screen, so I can go back to AutoFibs here and say, okay, don't show me price, just show me the percentage, or show me neither, right? You can do either, right? Because it's color coded, right? So now when let's get the measure moves off. So now when I get it, I don't see anything, right? Because of the color coding, I know what's what. But it can be, right? It's again, while you're first learning, it can be useful to have those. It's up to the individual. So I think that covers it. So, what I was trying to get to there is that Alt F, right? Alt F puts them on, takes them off, right? If I Alt G for grouping, off, on the right, on, off, Alt G. Alt G for the right, Alt F to get them on the screen. So as I was saying in some of the other videos, if I'm just about to get into the market, I will often go from having them off on the side just so I don't miss something and I'm just clear. It just can be helpful. And so if I was looking to get long here, well, I kind of want to check that here and see how that relates to this structure. Is there anything I can play off of there, looking for that to go up to these targets? Right, so I can look at that and say, well, one of these targets. So if I were to get that, and then of course you could always just, I'm going to use our toolbar here. So if I thought I was coming down here, here's the golden zone I wanted to buy, right? So if I'm looking, okay, I want this, and I know that target is right up there. Well, there's the target right there. So that's just one more. Again, while you're learning, right, and getting comfortable with this, that's not a bad way to go, to just draw it in until you build that confidence level, and eventually you'll get to the point where you won't need any of it. And you could, let's get that off here, and you can just do that. Right? That's often how I'll do it, because again, I've done this for a long time. I don't need to wonder what I'm looking at there per the color coding. Right? So it's up to the individual. See if there's anything else in there that I should cover for you guys. I think that covers us here on the hotkeys. Parameters here, you can play around with these, whether or not you want to, just kind of look through some of that. Can be useful as you're learning. All of this stuff is just color choices and thickness of line choices, right? So I like these very thin. I like these a little thicker. Again, this is just my preferences. But just say, I figured I'd go through it all here with you, and so you had a sense of what the options were here. And I wouldn't want you to miss those. It's because it's kind of handy, right? If you don't know this, right, that's kind of handy to be able to do. But if no one's shown you, you may not have that figured out. Okay, I think that covers us on both of those in terms of setup and color coding and parameters. I think that should cover us there. Okay, so now as you go through the additional content, and you hear me say, Alt G, I'm just grouping them on the right, or this is how I have the measured move set, that should make sense. Okay, guys, there you go.